I'm Bren.
I'm Kiki.
And welcome to Books Over Beans. We are today going to be talking about our fourth ACOTAR series book, A Court of Frost and Starlight.
Yeah, where is the time gone? Like, honestly, it's becoming a little bit more real now that eventually we're gonna have to part ways temporarily with this series because in the beginning I felt a little never ending because the books were so long.
Yep.
But now we've breezed right through them and we're on the fourth book. We finished the fourth book and we have one left.
I know.
It's really upsetting.
So we have one more left, which I'm hearing is quite the doozy. I have not begun it yet. You have not begun it yet.
Right.
All good things that I'm hearing, and if it's anything like what we've come to know about the series, is that it just continues to be enjoyable and getting better from here. This book a little bit different than the others, but before we get into spilling the beans on all things A Court of Frost and Starlight, let's talk about our chit chat for today.
Yes.
So we're back in the chairs. We're
Yep.
back here in the pod. Couple hot takes I want to talk about.
Yep.
First and foremost, though, before we get into it, Kiki, what is in your mug?
Today I have Creos coffee with a cold foam, and it's a hot coffee on an even hotter day. No, it's really not that hot, but we wanted to get a little cozy with our coffee because A Court of Frost and Starlight takes place in the winter, so we wanted all the cozy vibes. So I'm drinking some hot Creos today.
Very good. I am going to just throw it out there again. Please visit our partners over at Creos Coffee's website. You do get a discount code for being a loyal listener. Our code is for 15% off using Books Over Beans.
Yep.
All right. So please support our friends over at Creos and keep up with us here at the pod.
Yes.
Moving forward into chit chat then.
Yeah.
We've got the good stuff. We've got the cozy vibes. I mean, I have central air in my house. It is a little bit warmer today, but I'm wearing my cozy vibes here. This book was fantastic, but there's a few things I want to talk about before we get into the book. And the first being it's relating to the book and where the series is going. And I think this is a bookish hot take that I think a lot of people have an opinion about.
Yeah.
And that is the point of view of which the stories are written.
Yep.
So what we have experienced so far, and we've talked about this in previous episodes, is how much of a fan we are of Feyre. How much we enjoy Feyre's point of view in the first person. We're living through her storytelling as the narrator. We saw a little bit of shifting. We had multi-point of view going on in this story.
Yeah.
And just in general, how do you feel about first person opposed to third person, kind of not being the character, but being the person looking at it going on from the outside?
I think it really depends on the book, but overall, I do prefer first person.
Agreed.
I have a really hard time relating to the book when it's just a narrator kind of telling, what's happening between the characters. I love to hear the character's point of view in relation to what's going on in the book.
For me, it's easier to make connections that way, and I know it's not that it's impossible, but we saw a lot of first person to third person in this book.
Yeah.
Granted, it's no secret it's a transitional piece.
Yeah.
But it has me just thinking ahead for our final book. It's going to be narrating it as someone looking from the outside in. It's not from Nesta's first person point of view. Correct?
Okay, I didn't know that. That's news to me, and I'm honestly a little saddened because I wanted to hear Nesta's, especially if the whole book is going to be about Nesta.
Yep. So I could be wrong, but again, like I said, we haven't read this and I haven't gotten too far into it, but I noticed that as a common thread in this book in particular, that it was like Cassian felt this way. Nesta was doing this.
Yeah. Even with more from that.
So I also agree. I appreciate being the character in the journey.
Yep.
It does help with the visual representation of it for me personally, but I know that there's also, I mean, the same could be said. So I guess I'll be interested to see what my hot take would be on that after reading this last book.
Yeah, because I know there are people rave about this last book, so I'm kind of going into it with an open mind. Yeah, we'll see what
I
happens.
saw a, TikTok video where it was, "What's your ACOTAR book based on your zodiac sign?" I'm a
Oh,
Leo, and I have heard that Leos are the silver flames.
really? I
Mhm.
wonder what Libra. I'm a Libra.
Ooh, let's look that up because I wanna know.
Yeah.
Alright, hot take number 2.
Yep.
Again, this is kind of foreshadowing ACOTAR too. I
Mhm.
was inspired, but there have been a there has been, I should say, a common thread of overcoming grief, loss, hardship,
Mhm.
heartbreak in this series.
Yeah.
Multiple characters.
Mhm.
I don't think any one character has had an easy breezy, beautiful journey.
No, not at all.
Is there, and I guess we could leave this up to a poll maybe,
Yeah.
but has there been any sort of book or type of book or genre of book, maybe
Mhm.
even if it's just a vague answer, that has gotten you through heartbreak?
Yeah.
I would really like to know that. So we've been talking about this. I'm gonna figure. We'll figure out a way. Sidebar.
Yeah.
How to post that question, maybe with the episode,
Yeah, the episode, we
and
can
we
do it
can
across
revisit an
Instagram.
episode where it's like books that have gotten us and our readers through heartbreak.
Yeah.
I think it'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And I think, yeah, it could be as general as, like, a genre or I think really, like, reading for me just gets like, I don't have a specific book that has gotten me through any hardship, really. I think just overall reading for me just gets me through hardships because it's like an escape.
Mhm.
Um, and it allows me to, like, empathize with other people
Yeah.
and their stories and kind of reflect them back to, my hardships, my adversity.
Yep.
But I think that's okay too if our audience doesn't specifically have, like, a title, an exact title that has gotten through hardship, like you said, a genre or, maybe, like it's some
Yeah.
hard like, they're
An
everyone is
author.
different. Yeah. Yeah.
Right now I'm reading the Friend Zone series by Abby J.
Uh-huh.
And the first one wasn't expecting it. Very related to my personal grief and loss journey,
Mhm.
to the point where the book triggered me, which it does that doesn't normally happen. But then now I'm reading the second one and it picks up from the character whose life was interrupted. I will
Right.
just be general in saying that. And it's healed part of my soul because Abby's just gotten that right. And that's
Yeah.
hard to find, especially like from someone's perspective who's been through something like me. And I've shared that in previous episodes, but I could think of a whole list.
Yeah.
Like I could make a whole list of books that have gotten me through grief and loss,
Mhm.
or that have connected or made me connect. Some of the ACOTAR books being a
Yeah.
few of them.
Yeah. I think this one
So
especially
this
with
one
the
especially.
Weaver.
So I think that that's just a cool pull, and that's something that we'd really like to hear because I think when you're reading, we say this all the time, when you read, you're never alone. And so I would just love to know, because I love books that have undertones of overcoming things.
Yeah.
So I would love to know some of your recommendations on, things that you could make personal connections to in terms of heartbreak or loss or
Yeah.
just hardship. I think that would be really, really cool.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I guess it's a hot take, but it's more an open-ended hot take. The goal is to engage you more. So that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
All right. Um, it's spilled beans time. And I just want to say it was a long time coming.
Mhm.
We finally got some rest.
Yeah. This was very restful. Yep.
A beautiful transitional book, beautiful transitional piece. I think Feyre and Rhysand's story together was wrapped up beautifully and neatly in a box with a bow on top.
Yes.
Um, Definitely a holiday types vibe. This might be something worth rereading if you celebrate a December holiday, i.e.
Yeah.
Christmas or something like that.
Yeah.
I liked that it gave that vibe, but it didn't actually, like, obviously Christmas isn't a thing with them, but it didn't
Right.
make, if you are not a celebrator of that holiday, it
Right.
still gave the winter
Yes.
celebration vibe, which, inclusivity is important for me, especially, we cover a lot of December holidays at school. So,
Yeah.
um, that's the vibe it kind of gave me.
Yes, and I thought it was actually cool. I have like a prediction for this series. I think that there's going to be another transitional piece like this highlighting the summer solstice because Sarah J. Maas made it a point
Yeah.
to um,
Talk about it.
say that there are two solstices. There's more than just the winter solstice. There's also the summer solstice. So I can imagine in the future, when another transitional piece is needed after a time of like hardship and battle, like Akawar, I can see them going into the summer solstice, which I would love. That'd be so
That would
cool.
be cool.
That would be so cool.
It was novella style, so we saw multiple character point of views, the way it was written, different point of views, first, third. Um, a light read, got through it in a day, me personally.
Mhm.
Um, just really sweet. I think the piece that came across the inner circle was really the nicest part of it all. Their relationships and feeling towards each other remain true that we've seen in past books, and it was nice to see the core group of characters that we've come to grow and love with, um, just be able to enjoy each other. We feel looming threat coming,
Yep.
which was a prediction I had from the last book in our last episode. I just sense that that Illyrian camp is going to revolt against them.
Yep.
And I think that's where Cassian and Nesta's story will come in.
Mhm.
Um, to what scale? Not really sure, but I think we're gonna see a lot more like female like power and that kind of uprising in that camp. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my prediction for it. But let's talk about the things that maybe that you loved and that hit different for us and kind of stuck out. So again, it's a shorter novel, so the episode is structured a little bit differently today. But what kind of key event do you want to discuss first?
Yeah, so this is maybe it's actually not jumping ahead because I forget this book is so short. I think everything really ties into the entire book. Um Polina's family paint shop, that was the biggest thing for me because throughout this series painting has like been the it's just been the biggest thing for me. I love that theme. I love how it's Farrah's outlet and how it gets her through things similar to us with reading. I think Farrah's primary outlet is
Mhm.
painting.
Yep.
So I just love the time that she spent in the shop. I love that at first she was kind of really hesitant to spend some time in there, and she was kind of doing it behind closed doors. She was doing it secretively, and then over time, she just opened herself up to it, and she was so involved, loved it so much. And then at the end, when her family gifted it to Feyre, and the utter shock that she felt, and the compassion that she felt, and how excited she was for that new journey, and then opening it with Christina for free lessons to give to the children, which really relates back to the surreal and the scene that we talked about last book. Um, she mentioned that she recited that quote that the surreal told her, leave this world a better place than when you found it. And she's not doing that by letting the children of war come to the paint shop and, you know, have this
Express
creative,
themselves.
yeah, have a creative outlet to kind of reflect and um, heal from the things that they endured throughout the war.
Yep.
And I think that's so beautiful because I think if Farrah had that at in her childhood,
Yep.
then she would have, healed a lot sooner. So the fact that she's allowing the children of war to do that, and beyond children, anyone who needs healing, she's opening those doors up for free. I mentioned someone had asked her like, "Oh, what's the cost?" And she was like, "It's entirely free." So I think her giving back in that way was very beautiful to me, and it's just also like
Yeah.
I just love the painting theme and the fact that she's like broadening it because for a really long time in this series it was sporadic or didn't happen at all. There was simply no time for her to even reflect on what had happened in the battle. But now her opening this shop, she's painted several scenes of battle. She's healing from all the things that she
She's looked
endured.
inward.
Yeah. And she's allowing other people to come and it's becoming a community thing. I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
So that was my favorite part of the entire book.
I knew it.
Yep. And I knew and as soon as I started the book, I was like, "Oh, I know what Brenna's talking about." Yep, I knew it. And I had a guess that it was the painting because it's like been something I've been so overly like passionate about.
Mhm.
But it was beautiful for me. I loved
Yeah.
it. I loved how she painted the mirror.
I think it's definitely apparent in this book that it was the calm after the storm.
Yeah.
But for her in particular, I really like that she was finding herself again,
Mhm.
um, overcoming the PTSD, which has been a gradual process for her. So a very realistic timeline and journey through that, which I've appreciated with Feyre.
Mhm.
I love that she was able to finally accept that these were her people, but immerse herself in it.
Yep.
Excuse me. Which I think is one of the most beautiful things when she's on that rainbow row for
Oh
all of
yeah.
the art. Um, she's not the only one in the inner circle who has kind of begun to find peace.
Mhm.
We see a more diplomatic side of Rhysand. We see Cassian start to take charge of his story and confront his struggle. We see Elaine settle in a little bit more the moment when they were exchanging the solstice gifts that when she gave Azrael the headache medicine
Mhm.
or whatever. That was so funny. That was one of my favorite parts of the book. So characters opening up to each other, trusting each other,
Mhm.
which had taken time to build also through some of those inner circle members. Amryn has found love as
Yep.
a high fae.
Mhm.
She has joked about the adjustment to becoming high fae, which
Oh my
was
god.
humorous.
Yeah.
So it was just nice to see a lighter side of all of these characters, and spend some not constantly worrying about something time in Valaris, which Valaris deserved that too from us as the reader. Um, there was I wanna save Nesta for the end,
Yeah.
but there was a clear pivotal moment in this book, which I don't know how I feel. I've read conflicting things,
Mhm.
um, but I found it to be fascinating about Rhysand bringing it upon himself to pay our friend T Money Tamlin a visit.
Yes.
Um, Not surprised by the state of the Spring Court,
Yeah.
not surprised with the damage that's been done to his home
Right.
through his own rage. What I find interesting though is that as we've read, we've been hard on Tamlin. Tamlin has done some crappy stuff
Yeah.
in the sake of trying to win Feyre back. He had his redemption. Now he's just kind of sitting on the other side of that in the silence, in the pain, and the grief, and the anger. And clearly our friend Tamlin has been through some sort of traumatic experience, right?
Right.
Through his past. And a lot of people were all hating on him for that, right?
Yeah.
Couldn't you say the same about Nesta?
Yeah.
She treats people like garbage.
Yeah. She definitely
She's
does.
not nice.
Especially in this book.
This book, she was awful.
Yeah. And she's even like stated that she's completely closing herself off and basically saying that's your world, like live in it. But this is my world. Like don't intervene.
And I can see why she'd be angry because basically the choice was taken from her. But like, how can we accept one person's attitude after trauma, not the others? I find that an interesting take because
Mhm.
now that Tamlin's kind of just accepted it, we're like, okay, he had his moment and like we don't forgive him, but like he's mad, he's mid. But like Nesta has a lot of people who have tried, especially in this book, especially when Cassian goes after her and is like, just let me in. Like, I want to help. I want to be here for you. I want to protect. I want to do these things. I told you we'd have our moment if we survived. Like,
Right.
and and I'm looking forward to hearing more because like as the I liked her a lot in the beginning of ACOWAR, and then as time went on, that faded, and now I don't know where I sit with her.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly really do like her, but I really do like her. I think I think that we do have to give her a little bit of benefit of the doubt because she
Oh yeah,
was unwillingly brought into this world. I
and
don't think that
she saw her father die, but so did
right.
Tamlin.
Yeah, but I do think she's nasty. I do think she's nasty, but I think that she'll break out of that shell, and I think when she does, it's going to be really beautiful. And I think also she showed up in crucial moments where she's had to. Maybe in
Mm-hmm.
this book because it was peaceful. She wasn't. She wasn't gonna just put on um,
A
a
front.
veil that she was like
Okay.
okay and that she
Yeah.
could just celebrate this solstice. And I think that's perfectly fine. I think that
Agreed.
that we deserve to give her space during her healing. I don't think that I think that they were definitely being pushy with it, and I understand from their perspective why they would want her to celebrate and why they would want her to be in attendance. But I also do think that we have to look at it from a lens of like she's still dealing with everything from the cauldron, and then place on top of that, she watched her dad get murdered, and so did Elaine and so did Elaine and Farah, but they just handle things so differently, and they're not. I mean, I know people that in my life that are like that, or I myself am sometimes like that. Being alone is sometimes what you need to be like, and you can't put on like this front that you're okay when you're not.
Oh
And I
yeah.
think that's what Nessa's kind of doing.
I guess, and I didn't bring that up to be like we should feel the same about Tamlin and
Yeah,
Nesta. I just it was something a point of view or a perspective I came across that I didn't expect, and it
yeah,
actually had me thinking about it critically in between this episode and last.
yeah,
And I agree. I think I will relate to Nesta more than any other character considering what she's been through and what
Right.
I've been through, and I think that she is the epitome of not everybody grieves the same way,
Yes.
and to not have expectations of somebody's why they're grieving. I
Yep.
could write a book about that.
Right.
I just thought it was fascinating how when we were psychoanalyzing Tamlin and how people continue to do so, how maybe we forgot and lost sight of that for him too.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be like a sympathizer because I don't like him at all. I really
Yeah.
don't for other reasons, but I think that it was just interesting how you had two questionable characters who just weren't seeing things the way everyone else was,
Right.
and they're the two that I can say are like that. And so I just thought it was an interesting thing to bring up, but I agree with you. I think that what Ness is doing is appropriate.
Right.
I do think sometimes I want to scream at her and be like, "Why are you treating people who love you like that?" But then I have to
Yes.
stop and think that like when you're in the thick of it, you can't tell.
Yep.
Once she had that confrontation with Cassian and she like fell like behind her door and like when she was like it's silent, like
Yeah.
that absolutely crushed my soul because everything is so happy around her and then you have this person going through this silent struggle who's isolated herself and I get it. I
Yeah.
absolutely sympathize with her. Um so I thought that it was still really strategic and smart of the author to continue reminding us of that
Yep.
because like I've been something too. So I went through loss in spring. I hate spring.
Mhm.
I hate the transition from cold to nicer weather. There's like actual research and science that talks about like how there's pressure to feel a certain way when things get nicer.
Yeah.
Like and so actually depression rates are higher from the transition to winter to spring because we feel like we need to be out more, we need to be doing things more. But if it's a time where people struggle, they feel guilty about it. And so what you were saying just like rang true to me about that too and made a personal connection as we've discussed this because you can see that with Nesta.
Right.
Everybody else is finding things to be grateful for and she's still like I never wanted to be here. I never
Yeah.
wanted this to be my situation. Why am I going to celebrate?
Right.
So again, that's why I think this last book's either going to just pack a punch, especially for me or not, but I thought that that was a really interesting further look under the microscope of Nesta.
Yeah. And I think another thing is, a lot of people there's a big like, Teen Man hate club. And I think it's because like Nessa, yeah, she's really like quick with her mouth, quick tongue. Like she's really
Which I enjoy.
yes, but like she never physically harmed someone. And I think because
Mhm.
Tamlin's emotions, he lets it get physical and it
Yep,
starts to affect others. And it
absolutely.
affected Farrah so many times that I think that's kind of that. No, it's not kind of. It's unforgivable. Whereas
Absolutely.
Nesta, it's like okay, if you're gonna like just say some shit, like whatever, like
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
with Tamlin,
He
it's
sacrificed a lot of people for
yeah,
his personal gain.
exactly.
Absolutely.
And he cannot control his emotions to the point where it gets physical and he destroys things and
It hurts
people
people.
around him.
Agreed.
So I just think that I think Nesta, not that she really needs a redemption arc, but I think that it's gonna come in the last.
You're
I think we're gonna like fall in love with Nesta how we did with Feyre.
yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that's gonna come. I'm really interested that it's not in her. I don't like that, but
Yeah.
we'll figure it
But
out.
I guess it's still an important conversation to have that people's experience drive them to do certain things, right?
Exactly.
So I wanted to just I came across that and I was like, that's actually really interesting because when we judged Tamlin, like we're not considering those things,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean that he did it right.
No. Yeah.
And
And
I
I
don't
think
agree. So when Rhysand confronted him, I thought that was an important conversation to have because he was
yes.
like, basically, I forgive you. I
Right.
won't forget what you've done, but you've hurt people.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know. Some people don't like that he confronted him. He's like, they're kicking him while he's already down. I think that was something that Tamlin needed to hear.
I think it was necessary, and I think it's also important to recognize that Reese has been through some shit too,
Mm-hmm.
and he turned, he made lemonade out of his lemon. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he did not let it put him down. He did not hurt others because he's been hurt.
Yep.
He's uplifted others because he's been hurt. I think
Agreed.
that's an important message, and I think that's important to point out when people are considering that Reese visited Tamlin, kicked him while he was already down. I do think he was. This is actually part of my Hits Different. I do think he was extremely hurt. I think we saw him in a whole different. Like Tamlin was.
He's defeated. He's empty.
Yes,
He's
he's
depleted.
completely broken.
Yep.
He's let his ego pick him up in those moments, and he's been able to like just kind of brush it off. But up until this point, but now he's absolutely like he knows it. He knows his reign is over. He has no one. His right hand man Lucian even left him. Like he has
And he went
nothing.
back and tried and
Yeah. So um, that's an important part to pick up. But I also think that he's showing a little bit because he's defeated. He's showing a lot more self control. So I may be predicting maybe that's part of his healing process. Um, I actually flagged in one of my hits different quotes. It was like T Man's finally showing some or T Man self control, and I flagged it again. I was like, about
yeah.
time
Yeah.
because he hasn't shown that so far, and
Yeah.
I think it's a signal of his
Yes.
hurt. But I think that's good because I'm not saying it's good that he's at rock bottom, but he can only come up from here. And I think it's part
Yes.
of his healing process that he is gaining self control. He did not fight Reese physically when he was spewing all those things about that were true, that they were truths,
Sure.
but they were hurtful, and he
He
did not
learned.
retaliate. He did not react. So I think that's part of his healing process.
Yep. Um we have certain things in this book that the humanity of it, because you know we aren't every day getting ready to battle a
Right.
war.
Exactly.
So there were moments in this book that I appreciated that just allowed us to connect with the characters and be happy for them.
Yeah.
So, do you want to talk about any other key events, or do you want to move right into hits different? Because my hits different. When I think of this book, I think of this one particular part, and I could probably talk about it for a little bit. So I want to be mindful of like time and everything.
Right.
But do you have any key events or anything that you'd like to make? We can do predictions at the way end.
Yes. So yeah, I guess I could say that for predictions, but I just want to highlight that I thought it was awesome that Reese revealed to Farah that his mother
Oh yeah.
had made all of Farah's gowns.
Yep.
And the way that this was brought up was Farah's like, "You never told me like where you get all my gowns." But she was commenting how much she loved the one that she was wearing, not only that one, but actually all the gowns he has for her. And he opened up which he doesn't often do about his mother. It's often a closed door that he keeps stated.
Yep.
But he opened up about his mother and told Farah that she had made all of those gowns for his one, soon to be one day mate before she passed away.
Yeah.
That was very beautiful. And it's just a connection to like personal life. So many families have heirlooms, whether it be a ring, um, any type of jewelry, usually a ring. And I just think that it was awesome that all of those gowns that Farah is in every day and in the crucial moments, they're a reflection of his past and the one
Yeah.
thing that he lost that he loved.
Really big revelation in that part too, because whenever there was any sort of descriptor about how Feyre came out, like they would describe what she was dressing a lot, especially
Always.
heading into key moments. And there was always a glimpse, like you said in the last episode, where we're always like given a hint of something and then it's further explained. This, it was like a very common undertone where it was like he really was just seeing her.
Yes.
And we just thought that's the mate bond, how he feels. But
Yep.
then to get this truth from it of how much that actually meant to him was really beautiful.
And the gowns are always so reflective of the night court.
And her.
Yes.
It's like she knew.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like they were mated and his mom. Yeah. So I just thought that was very beautiful.
I also think what's worth noting here is just, this is a good transition segue into Hits Different, is that Feyre and Rhysand are going to have the happy ending I think that they deserve. I think that they've both died and come back to life too many times.
I agree.
Right? It's not a cat with 9 lives kind of situation. So really loved the undertones of talk about future family here.
Yeah. All right, jumping into Hits Different. Brenna, I think you're starting us off on page 21.
Yay. Let's do it. So, page 21. Here we go. So this I loved. But this is Rhysand and Feyre talking. Nope. It's Cassian and Rhysand. My bad. It's Cassian and Rhysand. He goes, the opposite actually. I get this feeling, I said, pacing a step, the ancient wood floorboards creaking beneath my boots, my power a writhing, living thing prowling through my veins, that it's all some sort of joke, some sort of cosmic trick, and that no one can be this happy and not pay for it. You've already paid for it, Rhys, both of you, and then some. I waved a hand. I trailed off. unable to finish the words. Cassian stared at me for a long moment.
I love that.
I love that part because it just hit different, especially that was a very personal quote that it's just like when things start to finally feel good when you've been through so much shit.
Yeah.
Pardon my language, excuse my French press.
Mhm.
Um, when things start to feel good and teeter off, it's almost like when's the shoe gonna drop?
Yep.
Why do I finally deserve this?
Yeah.
And to just see that human like and to see that be revealed to Reese to his friend
Yeah.
between men, a
Yep.
conversation like that.
Yep.
I thought that was just extremely powerful and beautiful, and I was very grateful to have read that.
Yes, and I think that's just like a thread that kind of weaves throughout this entire book. I loved hearing Reese's perspective because it was so noble and but yet at the same time so like emotionally available coming from a
Yes.
man's perspective. Like
Men,
yeah.
take notes.
Yeah, like he really just opened right up and I loved hearing him talk about Farrah. Like I loved that part. I'm so glad that his chapters were told from the first person perspective because I think
I
it's very
I
important.
would read a whole book in his perspective.
I would too. It was just as magical as Farrah's point of
Fanfic, please. That's my request.
that'd be
Fanfic.
amazing.
Thank you. Next.
Okay, so next we're going to page 54. Um, this is coming from Farrah. She said, "My throat tightened. That was a thought he wanted to trade, needed to share. I wanted you, even under the mountain," I said softly. "I chalked it up to those horrible circumstances, but after we killed her, when I couldn't tell anyone how I felt about how truly bad things were, I still told you. I've always been able to talk to you. I think my heart knew you were mine long before I even ever realized it." This was like a pivotal moment, I think, because a lot of Farrah's admiration for Reese goes unspoken. And I
Hmm.
always feel like he's and this is not true, but I think like expressively he's a little bit more smitten with her than she uh voices.
Mhm.
They do it through their bond and stuff, but I think like actually speaking those words to him to his face physically, I don't really know she's done that up until this point a
They've talked
lot.
through the bond.
Yes. But
It's
like
an easier way to transfer thought to her,
yes.
but for her to physically verbalize it was very big.
And I think that kind of speaks to just like human relationships. It's so easy for us to just think that the other person, like our significant other, is like getting what we're putting down.
Yeah, they know
Yeah,
how you feel.
they know how you feel, and it's through that. Like, although we may not have like a real bond like Farrah and Reese, we kind of do in a sense.
Yeah,
But it's like sometimes you don't verbalize it enough. And
sure.
here, Farrah's realizing like, okay, I need to verbalize it,
Mhm.
and she was able to do that for a thought versus a thought, and that's like exactly to my point. It's a thought that she has, but she doesn't voice it enough. And I think like
Yeah,
in my personal life, like I do this.
yeah,
I don't voice things enough.
yeah.
I think them, I feel them, but I don't voice them. Last hit different segment. We both marked this same quote. Brenna, do you want to hit us off?
Yep. I leaned into him again, his arm tightening around my shoulders, around the top of the arm inked with the tattoo we both bore, the promise between us to never part, not until the end, and even after that. I love you, I said down the bond. What's not to love? Before I could elbow him, Reese kissed me again, breathless and swift. To the stars who listened, Vera. I brushed a hand over his cheek to wipe away the last of his tears. His skin warm and soft, and we turned down the street that would lead us home toward our future, and all that waited within it, to the dreams that are answered, Reese. It's different.
That just hit different and it closed the book out exactly how I needed it to.
Yep.
That's exactly what I did in real time when I was reading the book. I just closed it and I was like, I'm good. I am good with that book. I
Yep.
am it got so much hate, but overall I really enjoyed
Perfect
it.
transitional piece.
Yep.
Here we go into Nesta's perspective, her storyline, her backstory, what's to
Yep.
come. Predictions for that: Uprising in Illyrian camp. It's obvious to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I'm excited to kind of see what happens with Feyre and Reese because I'm sure their future is going to continue
I
to press.
know.
And I would love to see it from their perspective, but it would be neat to see someone else looking at them
It would. It would.
in that world.
Especially because we've been looking at them for so long. And then I think eventually in this series, like we talked about this in previous episodes, especially after ACOTAR, there's so much that can happen with this series, and it could go on for an eternity.
Yeah.
So I think eventually we will be back in Feyre and Race's point of view. But overall
Thank you.
drinkability, what's this looking like for you, Bean?
The one part, as we all could see and or hear, that made it very emotional for me,
Right.
the novella style, pros and cons to that, like we've discussed.
Yep.
I'm gonna give it like a 3.7,
I
three
agree.
seven out of
I
5.
agree. I can't push it to a 4 because I gave
Mm-mm.
ACOMAF a 4.
Mhm.
I think if it was it's just the length that kind of makes it, not as impactful.
Jumpier too.
Yes, yes, I wouldn't say that it was bad. A lot of people
No.
gave hate on this. I would not say
Mm-mm.
it's bad at all. I'll
Mm-mm.
give it a 3.8.
Yeah,
3.8.
agreed. Um,
Just below a 4.
so we will see. Yeah, I
Right.
couldn't put it above book 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Um,
Oh my
we're
gosh.
one step
Well,
closer to the end.
this is like our farewell until the last
Book.
ACOTAR
Yep.
episode.
So that will be some time until that episode is recorded and released. We're gonna take our time, really absorb it.
Oh, yeah.
But a few weeks from now, we'll be wrapped up, and that's gonna be
Yeah,
crazy.
and then we'll be prepped for the summer and jump into some summer reads.
Love it. Um, a quicker episode today. Again, a very good book, a beautiful transition piece, the
Yeah.
calm after the storm, a
Yep.
lot of good vibes, but there are things still brewing. So
Yep.
we're excited to get into that and be able to spill the tea with you in just a little bit here.
Yep.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye.